Want to know the top 20 HBCU prospects in the draft this year? Coach G comes by with his list to break down the elite players, but then also the biggest risers and fallers. Oh yeah, it's Locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked on HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked on HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked on HBCU your first listen of the day, every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. You see it right there at the bottom of the screen. But if you don't, that means you're on the audio side of things. And don't forget the S on the end. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network. You can visit them at fanduel.com/lockedon to make every moment more. And Coach G is back with us on a back-to-back, but unlike the Lakers, he is going to provide another victory, another W episode, because he has his top 20 prospects in the NFL draft from an HBCU. And we're going to start off talking about the class of the HBCU draft cycle. That's the wide receivers. All right, Coach G. To me, the class of this draft cycle is the wide receivers. So when I'm looking at Bonds, Davis, Daniels, and Smith, you have them ranked in that order. Why that way? Because I have a couple of questions about
it. Well, keep it simple and plain. Bonds is the best overall receiver when you take athleticism, size, route run ability, catchability, blockability, ability to get open. He can play all across the board, multiple positions. I love his size. He can run everything in a route tree. He could do a little bit of Shaq Davis stuff, and he could also do a little bit of Xavier Smith and a little bit of Dallas Daniels stuff as well. So I think when you just look at the overall picture, he's the best, most well-rounded guy. Shaq Davis, you get what you get. You're going to probably get a couple drops here on the shorter routes, more intermediate routes, but you're going to get you a nice big play. You give it to him on a short route, he could take it to 80 for 80. Right. You give him a nice deep ball, nice go route, he'll jump over someone's head to land and outrun the rest of the defense. So I'm okay with that. Xavier Smith, the hype has become a little more and more and more, as people outside the HBCU realm started to, pick up on him. So I'm happy to see that for him. But I mean, I like Xavier Smith. The only difference, he would probably have been higher if there was some sort of, for a smaller guy, you got to be able to, be solid in the kick return, punt return game. So that's like a big, we're not knocking his wide receiver ability. I mean, he's shown that he can catch the rock at a really high clip. He doesn't drop a lot of passes. He's all across the field. He's going to be primarily a slot next level. And some teams are going to take a shot. I don't want people to think that Zay Smith is not going to be a professional football player. He might not be NFL right away, but Zay Smith will be catching touchdowns in somebody's league at some point. And Dallas Daniels, for me, Dallas, he's like I said, he's not like the most, when it comes to athletic point of view, it's like he doesn't wow you with his athleticism, but he finds ways to get open. And he's a willing blocker. He knows how to find ways into the zone middle and find ways to get open. And I truly believe he'll be primarily a slot receiver, but I think he has outside receiver size and ability. I believe he's about 5'10", 5'11", pushing about 190. So that's nice size for a slot receiver, also nice size for an outside receiver as well. So, yeah, like you said, those wide receivers, man, it's a really deep wide receiver class. I think outside the edge rushers, man, they're the top guys, on my list anyway.
And you talk about Smith's size. So you have him at 4, right?
I'm sorry. Let me make sure. I don't want to say it wrong. I have Yeah, Zay Smith. Well, he in my top 20. Are we talking about my top 20 or are we talking
Just
about
amongst wide receivers?
Oh yeah, so yeah, Jada's first, Shaq's second, Dallas is third, and Zay is fourth.
Now, if Xavier Smith was 2 inches taller, where would he fall within those 4?
Zay Smith was 5'11", 6 foot. We talking about he could possibly be an X receiver like Tyreek Hill, but he has the ability to be moved around. But if he's 6 feet tall, 170 pounds, that's like the kid from the Eagles. Oh my God, I can't remember his name.
Devontae Smith from Bama.
And you see when he get hit hard, he don't get up too fast. So but he's been known as came into it as an X receiver. So I mean, end of the day, that's where he was gonna. Well, not X receiver, outside receiver. I won't say he's an X because we all know the X is AJ Brown. But he could play outside receiver and he could move around the slot. I mean, end of the day, all these guys got to be versatile. You got to learn how to run routes from every position. And Zay, in his career at FAMU, he's been primarily a slot guy, but they moved him all around. And I would say yes, if Zay was 6 foot even, that'd be a different conversation. But I guess it's one of those things. You're an FCS guy, and if you're not like phenomenal on top of being a special team, at least being serviceable on special teams, it's going to be a little rough. That's why I urge, like when I go to these practices and talk to coaches and I hear them say, yo, our best players are going to play special teams, that's what you're going to do to get them to league. That's what's going to happen. Like if they don't play some sort of special teams, it's going to be rough. So for Zay, that kind of hurt him a little bit from just the people I've talked to when you're an undersized guy. You just have to have some sort of kick return special teams ability. But I don't think they needed him there. I mean, I don't think so. I don't think FAMU.
They had Sharif doing that,
So, I mean, they didn't really need him there. So, I guess I can't knock him. I mean, could he have asked for it? I'm sure Willie wouldn't have said no. But, he probably didn't know. He didn't know that people were going to hit his draft stock over his kick return, punt return ability.
Yes. So, my favorite position is the wide receiver in this class.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't think that's the best, it sounds like it's edge rusher. Now, first off, do you have a bias because you are a defensive line guy, or you really think that even if you were a cornerback expert, you would look at this edge rusher / defensive tackle class and say that's the best players in this draft?
That's hard because I gotta give a slight edge to the receivers, man. Because you just look at Jada, Shaq, Dallas, Xavier. Then I have on my list, I have Isaiah Land. I have Andrew Farmar, Keyshawn Moore. I have Jermaine McDaniel, and I have Ronnie Thomas.
Right.
Now, honestly, those are. I mean, you can go either way. Those
it's
are
really good,
really solid players either way. So those, I mean, it's honestly a tie. Like those guys are, those two groups are. But that's HBCU football for the most part. Like we're known for our big guys. Now for our receivers, as of late. We haven't been getting a lot of receivers getting drafted and put into different leagues, but I'm starting to see an uptick. XFL, we have I think it's about 3 receivers right now that are actually playing very well. I know off the top of my head is Chris Blair from Alcorn and Justin Smith from Norfolk State, and then we have Izzard from Howard. He plays on the defenders as well. So yeah, I mean our whole mark is our guys up front clearly, but. Our receivers are pretty good. It's probably the best wide receiver class that HBCUs have had in a pretty long time. I mean, if people don't want to add Tank Dell, which I wouldn't, you could add him too.
I personally don't. I just feel like he's been gone for long enough.
Yeah.
That's how I'm very much so. The only player who gets like dual citizenship for me was probably Jalen Hurts. He feels like an Alabama and Oklahoma guy because I just can't take his Alabama roots from him, But I do feel like Oklahoma made him. Let's keep it on the HBCU realm. But that's the only person I wouldn't put Tank Dell into that Jalen Hurts category.
I wouldn't either. No,
but we're gonna dive into some of the other players, some of the risers and fallers as we continue with Locked on HBCU. Before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network. And listen, if we're talking about the Lakers failing to win on a back-to-back, so they're dropping to the 7th seed, if we're talking about the Pelicans possibly getting out of the play-in game, or maybe the Mavericks making sure that they don't fall out of the play-in game, either way, you have to make sure you're putting money down on that on FanDuel. And if you get it wrong the first time, because you know what? Players mess up too. Sometimes you just can't get your bet right the first time. That's okay. Don't worry about it. FanDuel believes in second chances, and they're going to have the first bet no sweat, meaning even if you lose your first bet, you're going to get up to $1,000 back in free bets, so you have another chance, and another chance to make your money back. You got to go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every moment more. Sounds like the easy choice to me. As we continue rolling with today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making us your first listen of the day every day. And also, go to Draft HBCU. Get yourself the draft guide. My guy, Coach G, is here, and he's breaking down so many things for us, talking about his top 20 prospects, and that will be up. We're only going to go on some players. We're not going to break down all 20, but you can catch that on his Twitter. It'll be up Friday morning. We're posting this Friday morning. It'll all be there. But some of the fallers between the first draft you sent me and the final draft were Kamari Avery and DeJon Warren. What did you see in between those two drafts that said, you know what, these guys got to fall down the list a little bit?
Yeah, I had Kamari top 10, and then I'm not going to lie, I was just a little caught off guard from his pro day. I just didn't think he was going to – I thought he was going to test better. I'm just going to be very honest with you. I thought he was going to test better. It seems like, from what I'm hearing now, it's like people love a lot of tight ends in this draft. I didn't think it was going to be that. I thought it was going to be about 2-3 tight ends that everybody was loving. Now we're talking about 5-6 tight ends that people are in love with. So the chance of him, drafted is slowly declining, but the chance of him playing professional football is still there. He could still get picked up and brought into camp, and then we bring that big body into camp. You get him for cheap, and you know how that goes. People want to get the best player they can for the cheapest they can. That's why Lamar is in the situation he's in. So, we got Kamari Avery. It's not a knock on him. It's just that there are other guys who have, done better in the postseason draft process. And I just, it's not a knock on him. It's just, hey, you're going to get your shot. But that pro day, it would just concern me. But I just didn't think so. And then Warren, Nugget, the same thing. I guess I talk to everybody. Nobody knows what's up with Nugget. It's just what I thought he was gonna do and be. It just hasn't materialized it just hasn't materialized. So, the just from the little things of it just seemed like a confidence thing. Maybe it could be his technique is a little. I don't know what it may be, but I just know that I didn't expect him to run a 4.57. That's the last thing I expected. Right. You couldn't tell me he wasn't gonna run a sub 4.4. You couldn't tell me that. You couldn't tell me he wasn't going to jump out the gym. You have a crazy. I just envision a Byron Jones pro day, but guess who had that? Yeah, Isaiah Bolden had that. That's what. Yeah. We knew Isaiah Bolden was an athlete, but we didn't think him and Nugget were this far apart when it came to athleticism. It just didn't look like it. And I guess I had to go back to the film. Man. I had to really look and just something was just off. I don't know if Nugget was hurt. He playing hurt? Do I still think he's a great football player? Or can be a great football player? Sure. Do I think he needs to go to USFL a little bit more, get his confidence back and develop a little more? Hell yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't want these guys to understand. You have been selected to play professional football. Everybody not gonna make the NFL off the rip. You should take advantage of the opportunity and just be happy. I'm not saying settle, but be happy. You're getting the opportunity to play professional football. You make some money. And I heard they have really good good benefits and stuff. Help you with paying off your school if you have that. It's a good thing. So I don't want him to look at it as a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. If he has to go develop a little more in the USFL before he gets to the NFL, sure, he has a heck of a story to tell. So that's a beautiful thing,
And then on the flip side, a way more positive flip side, you have the guys who rose, and that's one of the things that I really appreciated from being able to see the first draft. And I know I gave you a hard time for changing it, but it gave some of the storylines. When I see a guy like Claudine Cheryless, when I see a guy like Ronnie Thomas go from not being in the top 20 to being at the bottom of the list around, I think, 20 and 19. I think they were actually 20 and 19. What did they do to jump some of the other guys like Joshua Pryor?
Claudin is a really good athlete. And, when you look at do the numbers match the tape? His numbers match his tape. The athleticism you saw at the pro day matches his tape. He's a really good athlete. I think for him, it's just that it's more about a need for him because he's an FBS transfer. They love those guys in HBCU football. So he's naturally going to get a shot somewhere. I'm shocked that he wasn't picked up by the USFL over some other guys, that were picked from the linebacker position. I was really shocked. But come to tackling ability, he could do that. He's a hard hitter. He has the athleticism and ability and the size to be able to cover. I believe he could be a better cover guy. He's more athleticism than technique in coverage. But when it comes to run stopping, he's one of the best. He's up there with Aubrey, and he's a bona fide run stopper, which is fine. That's a good way to start. So I'm just trying to find like a system for him. He can play a Mike, but he also comes off the edge too. So he's like one of those. You see this new thing where they need these Mike linebackers are just going down to the on the edge, and now they're becoming edge rushers on pass rush situations. So, Mike, everybody wants the next good thing. So when they saw Michael Parsons say, "Hey, he's an inside linebacker, now he's an edge rusher," they want guys like that now. So that's why you see a James Houston that can play off ball backer, and then hey, third and long, go ahead on the edge. So can I see Claudin Sherrill is doing it? Yeah, he's big. He's like I think he's about 6'2", 6'3", 240 plus pounds or whatever it may be. Sub 4, I think 4.5 40.
Super athlete.
Nice. Yeah, I mean he's a good athlete. And for Ronnie Thomas, man, I'm gonna praise him, man, because I talked to Ronnie for an hour the other day, and I was just like, you're a game changer, man. Like I don't think you understand that you're a 5'9" edge rusher and you have been picked up by the CFL, and like the word on the street is NFL teams, they like Ronnie, but
Okay.
it is that thing. He's 5'9.5", 5'10", but he's 250 pounds. And I'm a big believer in you got these tall offensive linemen, but so many times they could get that low and block you. So eventually Ronnie's going to get through. And he's shown that. He showcased that for a while at Mississippi Valley. He's a 5'10", 5'9.5" edge rusher that made out of Mississippi Valley State. Picked up by the Canadian Football League. So
shout out to him.
It's NFL, Canadian League. Everybody know that. And for that, it's just maybe from what I'm hearing, they want to see what he does in Canadian League. And you never know. Ronnie might end up on someone's NFL roster. At least someone to come into camp and just say, yo, fight for a position. You just never know. So, yeah, when I wanted to put him top 20, I just didn't know how people felt about him, man. I'm like, he didn't get a look yet. I'm like, what is going on? I think somebody got to pull the trigger on him. And I saw he got a trigger pulled on. It was, man, you go
everything you needed to say top 20.
Yeah, like you can almost like because the work we do, man, it's just like we these kids are achieving their dreams, man. I just feel like we helping. So just I just sit back and just reflect, like, man, I've been scouting Ronnie for about 2-3 years now. It's just like, wow, man, he made it. Like it's like you feel like you just happy, man. You just happy. Yeah. That's all. It just I ain't gonna get all emotional and stuff. It's just like, yo, we putting in the work, man, and our guys are becoming successful. And Ronnie's the type to give back to his university, so he's gonna make his money. He's gonna give back. He's a good. It's just that's what we want. We want to get guys to where they want to go, so they can come back and help. And then it's gotta keep the train moving. So yeah, I just want to shout out Ronnie. That's a little slightly off topic, but
no, like this fits. I think it really fits within the realm of the HBCU landscape, talking about guys achieving the dreams, being doubted, a 5'9", 250 defensive end. Like, it fits the mold. It fits the mold. I think you were right to do it. And I want to get to some of the guys that you love. I want to get to the elite of the elite prospects as we continue with Locked on HBCU. As wrapping up today's episode of Locked on HBCU, I appreciate you for making us your first listen of the day. And also making it all the way to segment 3. I still have Coach G of Draft HBCU. Once again, we're only going over a subsection. And we're going to talk about a bunch of players, but we're going only over a subsection of the guys. There's probably going to be 10 people we don't mention. So please go to my guy's Twitter and look up the top 20 players that he's going to have posted for you. I want to talk about that top 5. That top 5 didn't change. 1 through 15. Or 6 through 15, everybody changed. Nobody stayed in their spot. from draft 1 to the final copy. But those top 5, they stayed exactly the same in the exact order. Why are those the elite of the elite prospects? And that was Land, Evans, Bonds, Davis, and Miller. Why were those not in that order? But they'll get the order they'll get the order when they go to your team.
I got you.
But what made those the most elite?
These are the guys that have the best resume. These are the guys that did literally everything in their power. That everything they can do to write their ticket, the book their ticket, however you want to phrase it, they did it. And the postseason All-Star games, the regular season accolades, the pro day, they did everything they're supposed to do. Jadakis Bonds ran and had a pro day that I pretty much expected, a 4.5, kind of 40, nice vert, decent broad, looks really smooth and fluid in his position drills. Doesn't drop the ball. That's Jada. Jada did everything. He played in one of the toughest conferences in college football. He bounced around conferences throughout his career, and he was all conference every year, regardless of conference he was in. What else do you want from him? Nothing. There's nothing else you need from him. Mark Evans has been a starter since his freshman year.
Right.
Swag has been known to produce some really good offensive linemen, especially tackles. Definitely within the past 10, 15 years.
Shout out Armstead.
You know what I'm saying? Armstead is like, and then granted, they went to the same school. So then you have like Titus Howard. It's just, you got guys like that. And these guys were picked very high. Evans not the same player as those two. And I was comparing them because they're just a little different players. They're different players. But Evans literally did everything. When I was all conference, he played against FBS opponents. Like we always say, out of conference schedule matters. And he played well against the out of conference opponents. He gets picked for a postseason bowl game. He plays well during the bowl game. He did well during the practices. He's interviewing well. Everything. There's nothing else Mark needs to do. Mark has literally solidified himself to get drafted. If he
let me cut you there. Because of the 5, you have him number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Are all of those things what set him apart from the other guys? Or if it was kind of like nitpicking. It was
well, need is
the
biggest thing. Any team. Listen, every team could use another offensive lineman. The way these edge rushers are nowadays, the way these defensive tackles, like it's become now, is like some of the team's best pass rushers are in the interior. So for a guy like Mark Evans that can play all across the board, and he has a pass rush pass blocking ability that we have seen on film and a lot of scouts love. He just on top. Yes, out of everybody on this list, for the most part, I think him and Shaq in the top 5, I think they're the only ones that started at HBCU for 4+ years. I think maybe Jada as well. You know what I'm saying? And actually, no, that's funny.
No, Land.
Aubrey is the only one that didn't play at the HBCU for more than 2 years. Everybody else on this list has been they came into that school and that's where they leave. So it's like that makes. And I'm not trying to do it, separate any way like that. But it just
I understand where you come from.
Yeah, it just feels a little different. It's like, man, they went through it for 4 years to 3 years. They went from freshman to senior year, straight HBCU, dealing with whatever you want to call it, and they made it. So it just feels a little different. It just feels different. So for Aubrey putting this time. When you think of Aubrey, you don't even think about Missouri. Nobody does. I definitely don't. But when you think about Mark Evans, you know he went to UAPB. He was there his whole career. Isaiah Land was there his whole career. Jadakis Bonds was in Hampton his whole career. Shaq Davis was in Orangeburg his whole career. So they literally did everything you could take from a true FCS HBCU prospect. They did everything that you can ask for them. Every single thing. The postseason games they did, out of conference game they did, especially Shaq, because listen, when you play at South Carolina State, I'm pretty sure they tell you, like, yo, we're going to play South Carolina or Clemson or some FBS school at least once or twice a year. And you just got to play. And guess what happens when you play well against them? You end up like the 8 to 9 players they have in the NFL. I think that might be the most out of it. That has to be top 5 out of any FCS program. I can't name too many FCS programs that have currently at least 8 players on a practice squad or active roster in the NFL. That is a lot. And considering the budget, considering the endowment, considering the resources that South Carolina State has compared to other FCS schools, For them to have 8 players and the top 2 right now, they're I think Darius Leonard and Javon Hargrave, when you think about it, right, they're making well over $20 million a year, almost pretty much. Almost.
Hargrave just got him a new
Yeah,
one.
like combined, they're making well over $20 million a year. South Carolina State's endowment, I looked up, was $4 million. So that's what I'm saying. Now we have guys that have made it out HBCUs. They have money to be able to do whatever the heck they want, and they love the institution. They get back. That's the plan. That's what I think people don't understand. It's not just us just scouting these guys. Like, yo, like we want to put you out there so you can get the opportunity to change your life and the people that come after you. So like, so that's why my top 5 is not going to change. That's not saying the top 10 is still solid because you got Andrew Farmar. I love Andrew. You know what I'm saying? I love it. I've been very high on Andrew. Andrew and Keyshawn Moore. Those are my 2.
Yeah, he jumped into the top 10.
Yeah, those are my 2.
Yeah, you got
favorite. You know, and then I had to. Well, I'll just throw it out there. Keenan Isaac. He made it to the top 10. He was already drafted by the USFL.
Oh, did he? He's in a 10.
Yeah, he's at 10, right under.
I thought he was
Yeah, the new one. Yeah, he's right under Dallas.
You know, I was looking at both of them. I thought Isaac was at 11. I didn't even realize he creeped into the top 10.
In the top 10 because end of the day, I love tall corners, man, and it's nothing like a tall corner. I mean, he's not Josh Williams when it comes to like the movement, the fluidity, but he's good. Like Keenan, and here we go again. He did everything he's supposed to do. All conference, played well out of conference. He went to a postseason bowl game, 2 of them. He had a solid pro day from what I heard, and here we are. Like what else? He doesn't even do anything else. Everybody right. they did everything they're supposed to do. So I am completely I'm at peace. Like I have nothing else draft wise to talk. These guys did everything they're supposed to do. Now we just gotta we gotta leave it up to the execs, and we'll just see what happens. But these guys did everything they're supposed to do. And we did everything we could to make sure we promote them the right way. And coming on your show and me being able to talk about them as much as I
appreciate it.
It's come full circle. So now we just wait. And then, when draft day comes and we hear these names, or I could just show some love. I'll hit them up. Either on phone or I'll hit them up on Instagram or something. Just like, you made it, man. Congrats. Now, next step. Keep going. So.
And I appreciate you coming on. Look, I want you guys to know that on tomorrow's episode, or not tomorrow's Saturday, but on Monday's episode, we're going to continue with the draft talk. This is just the beginning. We're going to get into real draft mode. We're going to tell you some of the things you need to look for when trying to predict where these guys are going to go, which HBCU players are going to get drafted. And along this process, we will have Coach G. Don't worry. We're not going to do like a hip hop did and leave all the New Yorkers in the past and just.
Nas really dropped the platinum album 3 years in a row, but it's okay.
He had to go click up with somebody from the West. It's okay. He had to do that.
Oh my
God. Yeah, but I appreciate you for making us your first listen of the day, every day. Okay. Oh my gosh! For your second listen, check out Locked On College Basketball. In the meantime, in between time, if you're looking for me, you can follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Until the next time we hear each other, family. Take care. Stay blessed. Peace.
Hey, you made that very clear, huh? South.